Hi, I'm Marty Pearson with IgnitePoint.com, and I want to talk with you about the progression of a message. You are a tribal leader in the making, or perhaps you've already started to become a tribal leader, and you have a message inside of you. And a lot of times that's daunting and overwhelming to think that, oh man, I've got a message I've got to get out, and where do I start, and what are people going to think of me, and who am I to get out here and put this out here? I'm no expert, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so I want to give you a little bit of a history of my own journey. And I'm going to start with the end and back up the beginning of 2012. I ran across a book by Oliver DeMille called Freedom Shift. And in Freedom Shift, he talks about the three things that can shift this planet in a positive direction. He believes we're standing at a crossroads, and I do too, and that the world can go either of two directions, either down toward more darkness and more force and less freedom, or up in a lighter, freer direction. And we see both of these things happening in the world right now, and we can go either way. And the difference is made by a small quantity of people. And he looks at the course of, say, 3,000 years of history and sees that it's usually about 3% of the population who decides which way it goes. And his book is all about, creating a freedom shift. He talks about three things that can shift the planet. And number one is more entrepreneurs. Because you can't have a forceful, oppressive government and a strong entrepreneurial base. They don't coexist. If you have a lot of entrepreneurs, you usually can maintain a state of freedom, or you will create a state of freedom if there isn't one. The second thing is independent thinkers, people who think outside the box. They're not the sheep, they're the leaders. And which brings us to number three, which are the tribal leaders, more tribal leaders. So these three things, as I read his book, I was like, oh, I finally get who I am and why I am on this planet, because I have been doing these three things subconsciously for decades, ever since I started business in 1990. I have been fostering entrepreneurs. Anytime I'd see somebody who had an entrepreneurial quality, I would try to help, fan the flame and help them build a business around it, or do whatever I could to kind of support entrepreneurs. And I've been trying to get people to think outside the box all these years, talking about things that maybe shake people up a little bit and make them have to choose, make a choice to either ignore me and say I'm crazy, or, maybe she's onto something and I should change and go in this other direction. And then the third thing that I've been trying to do is promote, really get the word out about tribal leaders, people who are thinking outside the box, who have solutions to other people's challenges. And so as I read Freedom Shift, these bells went off in my head, and I realized I had the final piece to the puzzle of my own message. Because before that I thought, my message is that you've got a message. And that is a piece of my message. You do have a message. But I have my own message. And I know what type of people I want to support and work with now. And it's these entrepreneurial tribal leaders who think outside the box. Because we're working toward freedom. We're working to something greater than ourselves, something that we can pass on to our children and our grandchildren and leave a legacy of freedom that we've enjoyed. That's the big picture of what IgnitePoint is about. It's all about these three areas. But I didn't get that back in day one. Back when I was a computer trainer 20 years ago, I didn't know that this is where I was going. You may just be getting pieces and glimpses, and you think you're going somewhere, but it could take a turn and take you in a different direction, and you got to flow with it. And you can't hold your message inside until you get it perfect.